Hey.
Here before Brady. That'll make Brady happy.
Oh, yeah? Brady's been on Rachel's podcast, so I think he's all right. I enjoyed watching theirs because the first 45 minutes was just them talking about staph infections.
I have a staph infection right now.
Really? Yeah, I was going to say, it's going around. Everybody seems to be getting it.
Dude, I trained last Thursday, and then by Saturday, I was like, damn, my leg kind of feels weird. Looked down, looked like a pimple.
Mm-hmm.
Popped it. And then Sunday, it was like the whole inside of my leg was like swollen red, hurt to walk on. And I was like, oh my God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do my best. I keep that Hibiclens or whatever Brandon told me about. It dries your skin out. But anytime everybody's got it, I try to wipe down with that when I get home.
I have Hibiclens. I've just never used it.
But yeah, it dries your skin out like nothing else. But
really? Mm-hmm. I used it after a surgery or some shit like that.
Yeah, that's what it's for. It's for like wounds and stuff. So I don't use it on my whole body. It'll just be like open cuts and stuff.
I wish I would have used it and not had this damn staph thing. It's weird. It's freaky. You ever had staph?
I think I had like right when Sam got it and then Brady and everybody started getting it, I had something on my arm and then I just started taking the antibiotics.
When did Sam have it?
I don't know. It was like 2 months ago, 3 months ago. Now.
I thought you were going to say recently. He was one of the guys I trained with on Thursday.
But it's been, like, I mean, the way that shit works, man, is once somebody has it, it's going to make its full round. It's like the flu. Like it's like trying to keep the flu away from your family. Like everyone pushes it around. You do your best to stay clean and shower as soon as you can after training.
I saw some shit where an 18-year-old kid died in California like 2 weeks ago from it, they said.
I saw that. I wanted to know what the backstory to that was, if there's like any overlapping condition or something that would cause that. Because staph by itself, I've never heard of that. But
you can go septic. I mean, like if you let it fester long enough, it can probably get in your bloodstream.
You would think like even a kid would, their body starts opening up. But
I don't know. You have some grimy 18-year-old kid that's just like sitting there. He's like, it'll go away eventually. And like next thing you know, his whole leg is red. And they're like, damn, I think it'll go away. And then it's like, hey, champ, you're going to lose your leg if you're lucky.
And it looked like the people down at the MARTA station. Clay tells me horror stories of the people walking around there. You want to talk about sepsis?
Let's talk about the MARTA station. Didn't Prince get a gun pulled on him at the MARTA station?
Yeah, that was apparently like a whole thing. It shut down the work for a while. I think Prince was talking shit though. I think because what happens is Prince is down there talking shit to homeless people back and forth, like he's on Your Mama on MTV or something like that. Like, no, you smell bad, and then Prince wants to act surprised when the people go crazy.
And the guy goes crazy and pulls a fucking piece out, and it's like, I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Dude, that's ridiculous. You don't go down there and do any of the MARTA shit, but I know you're like involved, not with force contracting, but
no. I mean, like I said, I work in a more office-oriented aspect of construction there.
For the city?
Mm-hmm. Well, for the state, but...
For the state. Weren't you, like, building a prison?
I mean, the state is. I'm not building... I'm laying the bricks down and putting the bars in. No, definitely not. Like I said, it's not too different from just general management, scheduling, and meetings, and so on and forth.
Well, that's fun. Yeah. Like, what specifically on that? Because I know you said you went out to some location where they were building. Is it like purchasing and estimating side of stuff? Is it like site planning, just project management? Like what's
I mean, they call it like agency representation or like owner representation. So basically, on behalf of the state, we see the project from start to finish. So
okay.
From getting the designers and hiring the contractors to making sure everyone gets paid and making sure no one falls off a ladder or whatever. To our best ability.
No OSHA violations.
Yeah, when you got people like Sam on the job,
I found out Lucas was Sam's boss, and I literally went up to Lucas next time I saw him. I was like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no, I can't imagine. I mean, you have all these guys that train jiu-jitsu together, and some of them live together in the house, roommates and stuff, and then they also work on a construction site. They just are around each other all the time. So I can't imagine. I feel like I'd get tired of. I love Brady to death, but I feel like I get tired of him real quick.
I don't know if there's many people I could spend that amount of time with where I wouldn't be like, hey, man, respectfully, I'm going to fucking blow your brains out.
Right. Exactly.
Fucking pull. I'd be the one pulling the gun in the fucking MARTA station. Like, all right, I've had enough of your shit, Brady. Mm-hmm. Brady sits there and makes one too many weird-ass jokes. But what got you into jiu-jitsu? I don't actually know if I ever asked you that.
Yeah, it's a fun story, man. Like, so my roommate, Clay, we met working at a restaurant. Right before COVID, and we became friends And then we decided we were going to look for a place in the city together because we were up in north side of Atlanta initially. And we found the place right there where we're at now, like 2 or 3 minutes from Odyssey. And just so happened, maybe 6 or 8 months into living there, height of COVID, we were like, hey, we want to pick up some hobbies. So we started going and doing just like random stuff like playing darts and pool and chess and all types of weird stuff. And then one day he came home and he's like, hey, would you ever consider doing a martial art? I was like, yeah, that could be fun. You know, it's something you can do like a child class, whatever. So I Google searched like what's the most effective martial art. And I think the Google standard answer is jiu-jitsu. I had no idea what jiu-jitsu was. And then we just kind of showed up and we called Greg first and then showed up for a trial class in our shorts and t-shirt. And from that moment on, just kind of got addicted to it and haven't stopped since. So I thought we were going to be breaking boards and stuff. I thought it was like karate. I literally had no idea. I had no idea what we were doing. I thought there was going to be bags there. And we show up and they're like, yeah, come here and let me choke on you a little bit.
These dudes are going to hug you aggressively.
Yeah, exactly.
Aggressively hug you. You showed up thinking you and Timmy were going to be sitting there doing turning side kicks, hitting boards and bowing and shit.
Yeah, so it kind of just started as just like a pastime hobby, like something to do alongside with clay skateboarding or whatever. So we were doing it, and then probably about, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 months in, I started to get really, really addicted to it, and I was kind of doing it every single day. And this was during COVID where I wasn't working as much, and honestly, man, like never had any intention of really competing or anything like that. Just enjoyed it. And then one day Greg was like, hey, we're all going to do this Naga. And that was back when Lenny was there. And it's crazy now to think about it. I mean, me, Will, I can't even think of everyone that was there, but guys that are now veterans of competing all did their first little Naga together at white belt. So
what got you addicted?
Honestly, man, I think it was jiu-jitsu guys would call it magic or whatever like that. There was a little bit of magic to it the first time where something feels like it shouldn't work or it almost is like too easy to do. And then you get good at that one thing and you find like, oh, where I used to just kind of get pushed into the ground, now I'm able to kind of back this person off and with just this conceptual move of turning your hips to the side or throwing your legs this direction or whatever it is. So I think just like finding the first couple of those that at the time that it hit me, I just fell in love with it. I think that's what everyone does it for a little bit, but that was the first thing I was like, oh shit, I see. Because before then, it kind of just felt like I was just wrestling around with my brothers. Like we didn't really know what you were doing. You're just kind of grabbing people in bulldog chokes and whatever. It didn't really translate. Because you got to think about when me and Clay first started, we certainly weren't full time, is what everyone described it as now. But I mean, we were going once or twice a week. You know what I mean? Like you're going after work and stuff. And we used to work at nights, so we would go to like Lenny's noon class, and there was probably I don't know 7-8 months of just it would be me, Clay, Lenny, and maybe 1 or 2 other people. And there were sometimes it was just me and Clay and Lenny, and Lenny's just dog fighting us. It's just like neither of us know anything, you know? Like
Lenny's just sitting there watching.
Yeah.
Like, yes, they will kill each other.
Exactly. Man, shouts out to Lenny. He's a man.
It's funny as fuck watching people that are completely brand new, just getting after it. You're like, what the fuck is going on? This is horrific, but I can't look away. I love it.
Yeah, and that's kind of the second part, right? So like, after you have that first initial like, oh man, look, this move really works and it blew my mind or whatever, then you get to see, oh, that person who just walked in have that same moment over the course of a couple months. Yeah. Quicker and quicker now with Odyssey. I feel like it took me so long to get even halfway good, and now I see white belts training at Odyssey for a couple months, and it's like, you know, they're sweeping and doing heel hooks and leg locks. It's crazy.
I saw this kid, Aiden.
Mm-hmm.
I watched him in class. Like, I couldn't train. My back was fucked up, and I just went to class and was watching. I watched him ankle lock, like, 4 dudes in a row. And I was like, how long have you been training for? He's like, I don't know, 3 months.
Yeah.
Just fucking, like, steamrolling a bunch of white belts. And I was like, bro, your ankle lock is really fucking good. And I was sitting there, and I was like, bro, 3 months in, I was getting just dog walked by everyone.
And he's a rock climber. And I've talked about this before. Like, I think rock climbing, as strange as it might sound, with the exception of judo or wrestling, right? I think rock climbing is the only other athletic activity that really translates to the type of physicality in jiu-jitsu, because it seems strange, but then when you think about it, it's like, you know, the grips and stuff like that, but even more so like the idea of holding in the same position as like framing in jiu-jitsu, and like pulling yourself up is like extending and exploding out. And then I think even the mentality of what rock climbing is, this very like almost like slow grind activity. It's very similar to jiu-jitsu at the higher levels. Like it becomes like, you know, just hold this until you move, and then hold this until you move.
I was about to say the exact way that Brandon talks about passing is it's like you're climbing a ladder. Okay, well, what's more similar to climbing a ladder than fucking climbing up a rock wall?
Yep.
It's like, okay, get this grip, move here, just like inch, and then the next thing you know, you're in a completely
plus that forearm grip. You know, they got that real hold on to you.
I was about to say you have like wind up with wild static grip strength off of it.
Because like him, Simon, there's a whole group of the, because I think that he's Simon's friend.
Yeah.
And they like rock climb together. There's a whole little group of them that come in now. It's interesting.
I would love to rock climb. I just don't think I'm built for rock climbing.
My fingers hurt too much nowadays anyway. I'm like, jiu-jitsu makes my hands hurt already. I don't want to climb up. And the thing is, like, if I was going to do any type of climbing, I feel like I would want to climb outside, and that's way harder and like a much different thing. And that's too intimidating. Inside sport climbing, that's for people who really love it, you know?
Seeing some of the fucking holds people can like manipulate their fingers into, I'm like, how the fuck are you balancing with your like 3 fingers tucked into some little whatever? I don't understand it.
Yeah, man. It's wild.
Goddamn, my fucking knee hurts.
Knee?
Yeah, I got hurt all at once. I fucked my back up, then fucked my knee up, then got staph.
Yeah,
like back to back.
My back has been killing me lately.
What'd you do?
Man, honestly, I think it's overtraining, and my whole hip and lower back is kind of locked up. I need to start going and getting the stretch lab stuff.
That shit sounds like it's a miracle.
It's nice. I think it's like anything. You have to get the right person, because it's literally just like a massage, more focused on stretching you out. But,
I thought you were talking about the guy that DK Danier, like Tiff, we'll see. I forget the guy's name.
No, I've seen him before. I've never interacted with him. But no, the stretch lab, it's like a chain of places you can go.
Oh shit!
It's a little pricey. It ends up being like $50-$60, but I mean, a massage is right about that same thing anyway.
If it fucking makes your back not hurt, probably well worth it.
Yep.
What similarity do you see between chess and jiu-jitsu?
Oh, wow. I'm sure there's plenty of people who have answered that question with more skill in jiu-jitsu and chess than me, but
fuck them.
Yeah, exactly. my opinion on it, I guess, in jiu-jitsu and chess, once you get to a certain level, you're playing your opponent, right? And like chess people will talk about that a lot, because like poker or anything, it's not really the rules of the game are relatively simple. Just like jiu-jitsu is relatively simple. Choke them or break their limbs. It's pretty much the only rule, right? And I think once somebody knows, okay, this is how I defend somebody from choking me or breaking my arm or whatever like that, I think you have to almost lull them into a submission. And I think in the same way, chess, it's kind of like really good chess players aren't just playing good moves because they're both people are playing good moves. Like one person has to almost like innovate on what the other person is doing. And they talk about it in stand-up comedy where it's like underplaying people's expectations, right? So knock, knock, who's there? Someone you weren't expecting. That's what's funny. And that's what also competing in any high-level activity is, right? You have to think you're going one direction and then really go the other direction. And then there's an endless chain back and forth of that.
Yeah. Baiting people, all that fun shit. I remember when you started, you had that, you have like a rook tattoo or something like that on your ankle, don't you?
Yeah, no, so my roommate Clay, who's now a full-time tattoo artist, but when we moved in together, it was just like a passion interest of his. That was the first tattoo he ever gave me long before he worked at the tattoo shop. We just did it in our living room. And I think I got a rook piece. A friend of ours got a little dinosaur. And then I did a tattoo on Clay. And I can barely draw, right? Like I'm telling you, I can't color inside the lines. And then
Atlanta Public Schools, baby.
Right. So I did a bishop tattoo, which if anyone knows what the symbol of a bishop looks like, when it's poorly drawn, it looks even worse. But luckily Clay is covered in tattoos, so it blends in. I think he just, in a nice way, he says it's his favorite one, but it's certainly not a quality tattoo.
Hey, everyone needs one of those. I would imagine. I don't even. Where is it? He's fucking covered.
It's on his like shoulder, like the end of his shoulder, like in between some other tattoos that he has, and then mine's on my inside of my ankle.
I just remember seeing that and hearing you talk about chess, and I was like, there's probably a correlation between being good at chess and getting good at this shit.
Well, I think it's anything, man. Like you know, no matter if you're talking high level of business or sport or whatever, like I think it's all about just kind of being able to see what the norm is, being able to live with inside the norm, but then being able to like take advantage of the gray spaces in between, right? Like, I mean, what is a good salesman and the difference to a bad salesman? It's these little micro adjustments.
Tonality, literally like a specific phrase that you'll use, the way your inflection versus some guy being like, well, what's stopping you from buying the home? You sound like super needy. And
also being able to like react to the person in front of you, right? Like, I mean, I never really sold anything besides working at restaurants and stuff like that. But, you know, when I served, you'd have some people come in and there'd be, you know, a guy on a first date or just a general date. You can tell they relatively met each other. That guy doesn't necessarily want to spend $500 on the most expensive meal. What he wants is a good time and to feel like he's being taken care of and that, you know, kind of being left alone when he wants to talk and whatever like that. Versus you have a family of 5 come in. They want you to interact with the kids and kind of distract them so mom and dad can hang out. So like the same way, it's just reacting to what the other person's doing or what the opposite side is of what you're doing. So if you're trying to sell something, it's like, okay, well, what do they want? You can't sell the same thing to everybody, right?
That's fair. How can you force someone into a fucking butterfly sweep that's trying to body lock you and then taking their arm home, which you've done to me 7,000 times? I got to get you into Gnosticism. Shit. You sent me all these fucking links. Do you have any of them on you? Because I will fucking pull them up.
No, I think you're going to have to pull them up. That was a while ago.
Bro, it won't even let me access the note file.
Okay. Well, how about you this? Why don't you tell me what did you look into that you liked or were interested by?
I thought that it was really interesting that my understanding of it from the Gnostic Christianity side is that a lot of it becomes very Eastern based. It starts to sound very much like more Eastern religion, and it does not sound nearly like the hellfire damnation version of Christianity. And it is a lot more leaning into, like, I don't want to call it woo woo, but it is a lot more. It's more spiritual based, not religious based. It's not like you have to do this. The timelines on it were really interesting. I'm reading a book called The Gnostic Gospels that's about it. Like, you started talking about it, then I was like, all right, cool. And then I started going down some rabbit hole about like the Book of Enoch and all this other stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure the rabbit hole is endless on that one. My view on it always was like, when I was young, I don't know what it was, but I guess I got really into like mythology. Like, I would read like Greek mythology books and stuff like that. And I always found it fascinating, even, 10, 11 years old, and reading it and being like, oh, wow, this is like a parable to life and, these kind of things. So I was always fascinated with that. And I think what's cool about the world and history and stuff is that every culture and every side of things has like a little piece of that, like the, mysticism or, more cerebral symbology and stuff like that to religions and thought process. I mean, the same thing goes for all the like Eastern Asian religions, right? It's all about reaching nirvana and like I said, I always found it very interesting. And then as I get older now, I appreciate things like that because you realize, oh, it's something you could read multiple times and still continue to pick stuff up because it's like layered with, the human experience. Like someone who really cared wrote something symbolic and meaningful. I mean, it's not too different from art in general, right? Why do people make movies and write books? Because they want to move people and they want to make a statement in some way.
Convey the human experience or what they were feeling at that point.
Yeah, so I think there's just different levels to that, really, more so. Is like, there's like a teen drama that's meant to like give a real basic moral story, right? Like, and it's bad to cheat on your homework, right? Like, then that becomes like the moral of the whole episode. And then, there's things that are so layered that it's talking about the waters interacting with the fire, and then you have to kind of get real deep on the rabbit hole before you even start to somewhat understand it. And I think even people spend their entire lives studying every religion and every philosophy and every sacred text. So you can never really know it all. I think that at the core of it, that's really the best thing I've taken from reading symbolic works is always like, you're never going to know it all. So enjoy what parts of it you know and try to be the best person you can, because there's a lot of knowledge out there and no one can hold it.
Have any of them related to, or have you related with any of the works or any of the religious type texts that you've read more than others?
Yeah, I think yes. I think different philosophies are written for different reasons and are for different people. And I think like where I'm at now, I get really jazzed up by like the different warrior texts, right? So like Miyamoto Musashi and kind of like samurai texts are really interesting. And then even reading like about like the Roman gladiators or the Greek heroes and stuff like that. All of that's super fascinating because I just recently watched a video on YouTube that was a historical analysis of what the daily life of the gladiator fighters were. Like what did they eat and how did they train and what did they do every day? Like stuff like that is so fascinating because to be that person would be a very intense lifestyle. You might die younger than me and you are right now, right? And the same thing goes like samurais and feudal Japan or whatever. It's it's a hard lifestyle, so they end up having like philosophies that are really, really important and very like specific, right? Like the Miyamoto Musashi has like a list of rules called the Decado, I believe is how you pronounce it. That basically is like all one line rules that are relatively like pluralistic. Like everyone can kind of pull from them, like be like pull some kind of interest from, right? So like one of them that I always thought was interesting is like don't eat fancy foods and like don't and stuff like that, right? And it talks about in different translations like not being overly luxurious. And I think that's one that doesn't really translate a lot now because we don't think about eating good food as this like valuable money thing. Like we're not spending a ton of money to have meat and stuff. But in those time periods, like, yeah, there were people who would eat more food and have more access to food than like the entire village right next to them. So that was kind of a way of saying like, oh, don't always think about yourself. Eat what you absolutely need and then give food to others, in both like probably a literal way at that time and a symbolic way.
On the gladiator thing, what was the gladiator?
One that I thought was really interesting. They started with they woke up early and they started with stretching and oil baths.
Yo,
right? Which I was gonna say, you could definitely see some jiu-jitsu guys getting into that, right? Yeah.
Brady,
right? Exactly. They're gonna be slipping and sliding everywhere.
Brady and Sam in the fighter house at 7 a.m.
Yeah, a lot of it just had to do with like kind of like a circuit style day where they would start off stretching and having like light meals and doing like essentially strength and conditioning type stuff. And then progressively throughout the day, they would start doing long range cardio, and then they would do wrestling in the afternoon, and then they would do weapons training in the midday, whatever, and just kind of went through these things. And most of it just really had to do with just changing up what you're doing, which makes sense, right? Like anyone living a athletic lifestyle usually has to get some kind of variation to their workouts, or else they won't be able to do it every day. You can't just do push-ups for 10 hours.
Gassing out when you're training sucks.
Certainly.
You're training and you're sitting there, you're like, God damn it, I cannot defend myself. I have no energy to do anything. I can't explode and get out of here. Gassing out when you're in a fucking arena and there's a lion, probably a pretty bad feeling.
Yeah,
like,
certainly. Well, I think if you're the guy going up against the lion, you've kind of messed up already. like they're not setting you up for success here. Like you obviously were not the favorite around the water cooler if you're going out to fight the lion.
Who you think was the Dana White of the gladiator shit? Obviously the emperor's over the whole thing, but who's the one that's like matchmaking? Who's like, we want to see this dude with the trident and whatever fight that guy. Fuck that guy. He's fighting a pack of lions.
Yeah, I would have to imagine that whoever that guy was somebody that everyone was very nice to their face, but not very nice to when they walked away. You know.
And you got to be real careful about who you talk shit to about that. Rather, who you're talking shit about that guy too, because if that guy you talk shit to me about dude that's matchmaking the gladiator matches, I go, hey man, Austin's talking a lot of shit behind your back. Then you get the little card for the next gladiator thing, and you're like, I'm fighting a tiger. Huh.
Well, I thought one of the funniest stories I ever heard in context of that is that for the first, not for the gladiator games, but for what was called pancreaton, which was like essentially like their grappling sport, right? Like similar to Roman Greco, but with like submissions and stuff like that. And there's a story that the guy who won, I don't remember if it was the first 2 or 3 tournaments, he did so by breaking everyone's fingers from Roman grips, which I think is hilarious. Like, it's like a guy comes out, he grabs your hands and then breaks all of your fingers and wins the match. Just like, and he did it so many times. Like, I think it wasn't until the second or third time that they made a rule, like you're not allowed to break people's fingers. Yeah. And they're like, all right, no more biting. Like they really had to wheel it in a little bit.
I heard apparently that pancreaton.
I'll be honest, I don't know how to pronounce it, but
I heard John Danaher call it pancreation. I think. I'm
going to believe John Danaher. He's probably right.
John Danaher's never been wrong ever.
Especially speaking, science. He's a much more elegant speaker than I am. So
he also talks like a sociopath, which I think goes a long way in making you believe him. Because you're like, if I disagree, he might just kill me.
Yeah, but he has the chest of a grizzly, so I think he does. He can do what he wants. My dude would be taking up half the table right now.
A burly man.
He's a burly man. He's a burly man.
He was talking about pancreation, and he was saying basically that apparently a lot of the knowledge was lost. It was housed in like the Library at Alexandria.
Yeah, I think there is like some theories about that. Yeah, because it's fascinating. I mean, a lot of people who might not do jiu-jitsu might not know this, but like a good portion of the moves that we do currently in jiu-jitsu are from this like kind of 300 or 400. I'm horrible with dates, but a couple hundred years back in Japan is where those things were first documented and wrote down. You can go on the internet and look up pictures of these same things being done, right? There must have been texts that were similar for these competitions that not only existed in Greece and Rome, but probably all around the world at the time. And there are some grappling sports that have like a long history to it, like the forget what it's called, but there's a belt wrestling that they do in Mongolia and stuff that has like a very long history and like, you know, thorough tactics and all that kind of stuff. Similar to sumo, but done halfway in between sumo and judo.
Holy shit.
It's very interesting. It's basically judo without the gi, just with the belt.
Just with the belt, and they're what, like shirtless?
I think so. Honestly, I'd have to look up if there's any more to the outfit. I think they wear like ceremonial shirts, if I remember right.
Okay,
but yeah,
that makes sense.
My favorite one of like weird combat sports is there was an Irish sport where both people would grab the collar of the other person, and like that one MMA fight from back in the day between the Gracie and the Japanese guy.
Where like rock.
Oh no, that wasn't the Gracie. That was
Mark Coleman
with the mustache. I always forget his name.
Fuck. Mm-hmm. He's like shrunk way down. Like he got way smaller.
I saw him on something recently. He's a legend. He looks like an early MMA fighter.
Don
Fry. Don Fry. Yes. That's what it is. Yeah, a legend. Legendary mustache, legendary fighter. So
exactly. That's all. Is that worse than power slap?
Man, I tell people, if you ever want to be disheartened and you do jiu-jitsu, realize that the UFC was airing slap fighting before they put on jiu-jitsu full time. If you want to know that we're in a sport that has no interest in the public, people would rather watch people just slap each other until they get knocked out.
How much money would someone have to pay you to get knocked out from a power slap from like one of their heavyweight power slappers?
Man, people ask this question all the time, like how much money would you to fight this person or do an MMA? The problem is it all comes down to the specifics, right? Who's paying the hospital bills? What's the likelihood?
Hospital bills are covered.
Yeah, if all that, you got to think you'd fight anybody for 6 digits, right? I mean, there's, with the exception of I guess Mike Tyson or
Francis.
Yeah, like guys are just so massive they might actually kill you. I think I'd fight anyone my own size for six bands, or six digits.
Figures.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I saw that dude that Francis is fighting started making some sort of remarks about he was going to make his bad year even worse or something like that, and it sounded like he was somewhat referencing his dead son that died. It's like, hey man, there's a few people I don't know if I'd talk shit about their dead kid to. He might be number 1 on the list.
That's fair. I stay so out of like the loop on what's going on in like sports or the news or anything like that it feels like flashing back into like a fake reality, like you're like, what is going on? The Kardashians said what? I try to stay out of everything I possibly can. There's so much drama and nonsense going on in the world nowadays. It's like people make money off of it. That's their whole shtick, right? Like it's you get people all fired up, no matter if it's political or just something outrageous. It's all just to get people's attention.
The celebrity shit I can't get behind. I just follow fighting like a psychopath.
Well, at least that there's like, especially if you gamble. See, I understand sports if you gamble. I don't gamble, so I don't watch much pro sports besides an interesting MMA fight every once in a while. But I see Will sometimes like calling in bets and stuff like it's like a movie. he's like 20 down on him. He's like doing stocks like the Wolf of Wall Street.
I'm shocked you haven't made fun of me since you call me the French Bulldog of Wall Street.
Man, I mean that couldn't be more on the nose. You have the energy of a French Bulldog. Your face, it has the exact look. I don't know what it is, but you're so much bigger. You're like a French Bulldog's personality come to life. You know what I mean?
That feels insulting.
It's not.
I lived with a French Bulldog for a while. That's insulting.
They are like one of the most expensive dogs nowadays, though. Sometimes I'll see people ask them if they have a French Bulldog. I always ask, "What did you pay for it?" Because it's always an absurd amount. I don't know. I love animals, right? I've had animals my entire life. What is any animal worth to you? Like as far as a dog, what's the max you could ever imagine paying for a dog?
I would buy one of those personal protection dogs that they sell for like $75,000. If I was balling out of control, it'd be so sick.
But you know who's tougher than that?
$9 million.
That's true. But also just like a dog that you get at the pound who's like lived a little bit of a rough life. You know what I mean? Like my parents have a Chihuahua mixed with something. It's a little bigger than a Chihuahua, but this thing, he probably lived on his own for the first couple of years. He's so independent. He's smarter than my dog. Like he'll outsmart Dio all the time, who's a German Shepherd, and he's a tiny little Chihuahua, and he gets. No doubt. I feel like if he got out, he could go and run some errands and come back, no problem. Like he's getting to the store, he's handing money away. Like there's some street dogs out there that really they know what they're doing. You know,
I do not doubt that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people that will fucking adopt dogs from the shelter, and it's like they bring them home, and then they're like, actually, I don't know if I want this thing. This thing's a little bit too edgy for me. Well, they turn around and take them back.
Well, you know that's most of the dogs at the shelter. Like undoubtedly, my dogs. I have a German Shepherd mixed with a Husky, right? A beautiful dog with one blue eye and one brown eye. And when I got him from the shelter, he was probably, I don't know, maybe a year and a half, 2 years old, somewhere around there. And they told me that the reason that he got brought there was because the person who had them just couldn't handle them anymore. A younger person, probably working full time, whatever like that, and didn't have the energy to take the dog out and all that. But I'm sure Dio was a couple $1,000s. Like those mixed breeds like that, and especially with the German Shepherd and a Husky. Maybe
people freak out over purebreds, though. People fucking way overpay for purebred dogs.
And I just don't understand it because I
it's like an incestuous dog. That's like the royal family in England. A bunch of fucking incestuous freaks.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like go get yourself a mutt. He'll probably like you a little bit more. Because my parents now have a Doberman alongside with this teeny tiny Chihuahua. Yeah, I assume so.
Bro, Dobermans are badass.
They paid money for it. But let me tell you, it is a badass dog. I mean, this thing is intimidating, right? But you know what it's not? Very friendly or nice. Like, it's not fun to be around. It's not like Dio. Dio, every time I come home, he's following me around the house. He wants to hang out. He's nice to everybody. He, tries to play with squirrels. The Doberman, I mean, you sit too close to it, it's looking like it's going to take your lunch money. Like it doesn't think of you as like its owner and it lives in your house. It's like, this is my house and I also allow you to live here.
I'm so graciously allowing you to stay here with me.
I love my parents to death, and I know they love the dog too. But man, it definitely added a little stress to their life. Not as easy to take care of the Chihuahua because you let go of the Doberman with a little bit of aggression issues, you might have yourself a lawsuit. The thing's gonna kill somebody.
I was about to say, dude, my grandpa went and almost tried to kill a Doberman one time because a Doberman actually killed his Chihuahua. Mm-hmm. Like his Chihuahua got out of the fucking yard or some shit when my mom was a little kid, and the Chihuahua was just like wandering around. This Doberman was like, I just had kids. I don't like the way you look, and it just fucking mangled this Chihuahua.
Well, we train with with Jordan, right? So Jordan has a Belgian Malinois that he literally told me one time that for the first 3 months he fed it from his hand. Like this dog is so obedient and controlled and like doesn't move, doesn't need to be on a leash ever. Like will go and sit and all that kind of stuff. And there was one time I had Dio coming to the gym and I don't remember his dog's name, but Jordan's dog was sitting there. I mean, Dio is barking like, whoa, shaking his tail like, let's go play. And this dog's just sitting death stare, like just waiting, like for Jordan to say anything, for Jordan to say go, and he's gonna murder my dog without a second thought about it. Right? Like this thing's a monster. It's like a missile. I mean, it's truly. But it's so funny because I'm sitting there with Dio. I'm having to pull him back inside, and this dog is.
Dio thinks he's about to make a new friend, and that dog is sitting there. It's like reptilian brain is like. Yeah. I think I can kill it in 3 seconds. I don't think it's going to take a lot of effort. Yeah, this thing looks soft.
Yeah, you would think German Shepherds and Malinois, they look so similar that they kind of have the same temperament. But I've had a lot of German Shepherds. My parents had one as well. Like they're a little more friendly. Malinois are just kind of naturally intense. They're always on the look for something to tear up or attack or run after.
Dude, the girl that I used to date, so she had this French bulldog. Mm-hmm. She was living in this apartment with this other girl. The other girl is talking about this dog that she wants to go get from the shelter. And she's talking to me about the dog. She's like, it's a Malinois, and I was like, you mean you're trying to get a Belgian Malinois? And she was like, yeah, I think that's what they called it. And I was like, but no. You don't need to do this. She was like, yeah, like I think I'm going to bring her into the office. And I was like, I don't think you know what you're signing up for. And she was like, oh, well, I think they'll be fine. And the little dog's name was Buster. And she was like, oh, well, like I bet him and Buster will get along fine. Like if they have some disagreement, they'll just like figure it out. And I was like, I don't think you understand how a Belgian Malinois goes through a conflict resolution process, because that looks like him ripping ripping the French bulldog's throat out and then being like, all right.
Well, the one benefit is, right, they're so smart that if you do your due diligence and you train it right and all that stuff, I mean, they're completely under control and you don't really have to worry about them, probably even less so than a dog like mine who's friendly but a little wild. It's just, like I said, they're police dogs for a reason. Like the police figured it out. Those are the breed to go with. They're the best at it.
I remember Matt was telling me about how some lady that he was serving a felony on, she was like wanted for like a homicide. She was hiding underneath the bed in some house, and basically they cut the dog loose because she wouldn't come out of the back bedroom, and the dog like drug her from out underneath the bed via her scalp.
Yeah,
it was like. You see, if a cop starts yelling, come out or you're going to get bit, like, dude, that Malinois is going to fuck you up.
Yeah, I'm generally not too sensitive on policing, but I will say having dogs attack people is a little wild in 2024. Can we all get on the same page there? Like that, like, why don't we just go and get bears? Why don't you just get a bear and go and kill people? This is crazy. Like, come on. Why we... I don't know. Maybe I'm a little off base there, but I feel like since when did we normalize... attacking people with animals? They've been doing that forever, though.
I get the dog thing. I get the dog. It's trained well, whatever. I mean, maybe, hopefully it doesn't attack a kid. That'd be a bad look, but,
Well, but even attack, like I said, maybe that's just my own fear, because I do have a legitimate fear of getting attacked by a dog, and I've luckily gone my entire life with never having any kind of run-in like that. I had one time walking around my neighborhood where I was growing up at. I was probably 9th grade or something, and there was a pit bull, just no leash, no collar, nothing, just by itself on like a walking path that I was going around. And I remember like looking at this dog, and it kind of dug its feet in the ground and was growling at me. And I was like, all right, I'm going to walk around. And I did like a semicircle around it. And as I was doing a semicircle, it jumped at me. And I just remember hitting it right in the nose, and it like fell back. And luckily pit bulls, although dangerous, are not exactly the most agile creatures.
No.
So it fell back and kind of like squished around, and I just took off, and they didn't come after me.
Bro, pit bulls, like, I don't know what it is about pit bulls. They attack people at like a crazy clip.
Like I said, I don't know exactly what that is. Plenty of people have talked about it, but like, yeah, pit bulls represent, like, I think the largest portion of like dog on dog and dog on person. But my parents also have a pit bull. I mean,
your parents got a fucking zoo? Jesus Christ.
Well, I guess that's fair. My dad has a Doberman and Chihuahua. My mom has a pit bull and a German Shepherd. Yeah, split home. What kind of stuff?
Okay, same.
Yeah, rough childhood. But yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, some pit bulls are the sweetest things ever, and you can never even imagine them hurting others. And then there's other ones that are always on the edge. Always on the edge. So
Greg's are sweet.
Yeah, I mean, Greg's is like, I'll be honest with you. I'm not scared of that dog in the slightest. I mean, it's like a big old pillow, right? But
I knew one pit bull one time where I was in this guy's house, and he went to the bathroom, and it was just me and the dog. And the dog walked right up to the door, stood right next to the door, stared at me, and started growling. And I was like, yo, can you come do something with the dog? Because like this thing looks like he's about to fucking take a chunk out of my leg.
Yeah. I was seeing a girl for a while that had a Rottweiler, a full-grown male Rottweiler.
Hell yeah.
Oh, my
That's a red flag. If a girl's got a dog that big, that's a red flag.
You know, it's funny. Certainly a red flag, dog. 100%. No, nevertheless, you want to be intimidated on a first date. Go back and see a Rottweiler that just sitting there staring at you for 20 minutes. And they tell you that Rottweilers do that because it's like a cat purring. But I don't know, man. I don't know. They're just constantly growling at you. And they'll just push you over, knock you down.
Where they're like showing their teeth and shit.
Not even like showing their teeth. It's like a low growl. It's like you can hear it though, because they're 100-pound dogs or whatever they are. And it's just sitting there going, and you're just like,
dude. The place that I used to live, there was an apartment building across the street, and I swear to God, everyone in that apartment had a fucking Rottweiler, Cane Corso, Doberman, or Pit Bull, and it was like these fucking Rottweiler, like these people be walking out with fucking Cane Corso. That's a small horse.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that dog is cooped up in a fucking 800 square foot apartment all day. I was like, bro, that dog's going to kill you. It's going to snap one day and it's going to rip your arm off and be like, oh, finally, some activity, some action.
Yeah. And meanwhile, if this Rottweiler comes after me right now, the person who's supposed to defend me
weighs less than the Rottweiler.
Yeah, I was going to say, probably weighs less than the Rottweiler and has had 3 margaritas. You know, like, I might die to this dog. Talk about a crazy 911 call. Is coming to a dead person from Rottweiler attack.
The girl's drunk. Yeah, it was a first date. It went really well. We showed up here, and then my Rottweiler had other ideas, and it ripped his arm off, and he bled to death on my floor. Yeah. I tried to stop him. I'm kind of drunk.
Yeah, craziest domestic violence call ever.
That's a tough way to go.
Yeah, certainly.
Oh, fuck. What do you think the worst way to go is? The worst way to die. Absolute worst.
Well, it depends. There's two routes you can go. Right. The worst way physically, like what would probably hurt the most, or worst way, like people have to tell that story, or like you're, whatever. I think worst way physically, for me personally, would probably be like a fire or something. And people say that you pass out, yada yada. But there's certainly a period where that sucks, right? And I don't know how long that period is, but that time
where you're asphyxiating.
Yeah, like I grew up in the water and stuff. Like I swam a lot, and I used to go in the ocean every summer. And water doesn't freak me out as much. And I don't really know why. Actually, I have a funny story about being stuck in the water. So I lived in Costa Rica right when I got out of high school, doing like some animal conservation stuff. Basically, because you go down there, they give you a place to stay, you help on a sea turtle farm, right? And where we were at, there was a beach that was literally, 100 feet from where we were staying. So it's like an animal conservation. And the first day that I got there, I was like, it's been such a long walk to get here. And it's this whole travel from a bus to a taxi to a walk, So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go jump in the ocean. Like I said, my mom lived in Florida for a period of time, and I grew up going to the ocean. So I'm pretty confident. I jump in, I'm swimming around, I'm having a good time. And for those who don't know, there's something called a wave break. In most places, like most beaches that you'll go to, there's going to be like a wall that's created, a quarter mile out or whatever it is, that basically causes the waves not to get insane in variation. So we were did not have that. So when I got in the water, the waves were maybe, 3 or 4 feet tall. And then as I was in the water, it switched to high tide, and these waves started to get to like 10, 12 feet. And it's like, sucking me out farther and farther and farther. And by the time that I realized, like, oh man, I'm getting like pushed out, I look back at the beach, and there was the 2 girls that I had traveled to get there with, and they were the size of ants. Like I could barely see them. I couldn't make out which one was which. And I realized, oh man, I got to go back. I start trying to swim back, and like the current is like pulling me farther and farther out. So I'm like, oh man, this is not working. So I start like waving my arms, like telling them, hey, go get the people, come help me. So I'm trying to like wade water and keep moving, but it keeps pushing me back. And I see, God bless them, because it's the best that they had at the moment, but I see these 2 Costa Rican, barely teenagers, run out with surfboards And they're like trying to get over the waves and stuff. And I go, I'm going to die here in Costa Rica. I've been here for 35 minutes. Like we literally just got there. The day before flew in, stayed in a hostel, took a bus all day, just got here and I'm about to die. Right. And so I go into like fight or flight mode. And I don't know if this is necessarily the right thing to do, but it worked in the moment. I just was taking dives. Like I would go under the water, swim for a while, and then come back up and then go under the water. And because then I was getting out of the current pulling me back. So I would just go down and then come back up, take a big breath and keep going down. And what felt like 5 hours, but was probably more like 6 or 7 minutes, I finally get back to the shore and the surfers have barely even gotten to the point where they can't stand and where they have to get on the surfboard. And I hit the beach and I just fall into jello and then basically sit there for probably 20, 30 minutes, getting my wits about me again.
Collect yourself.
Yeah, and stayed in Costa Rica and worked for a month.
You almost die again?
Literally, no. There was one other time I almost got swept out. I fell asleep on the beach and it turned to high tide. I woke up and there was some water, but nothing too crazy.
Oh my God.
We also did have one where when we went to go leave, it was like the last week that we were there, we had gotten paid for doing the animal conservation stuff, and you had like a week before our flights took back off, and there was a group of people that we were traveling with, and there was one girl that I was splitting like a duplex style, like a condo type, or what do you call it, like hotel room type deal. So it had like two sides to it, whatever. And I told her, hey, you take care of this thing and I'll take care of the hotel payment or whatever. Because for some reason, I would have to hope that in Costa Rica now they take deposits and credit cards and stuff like that. But they didn't like ask us for anything. Like we just like booked the room and it was like $14 a night or something like that. And then we're like, yeah, we're going to stay for a week and we were supposed to pay at the end. I don't feel good about this, but I was 17, so give me a break. I just ran out of money. Like we were leaving the next day and like I literally had like no money. I had my plane ticket and everything that I needed to get back to the airport. So I just told the girl, I was like, yeah, we got to leave really early. She's like, oh, okay. And so we wake up and it's probably 5 or 6 a.m. or something, still dark out. And I remember I was just like, yeah, no, I paid for it. And we started leaving. And then right when we were leaving, the people who owned or operated this like little hostel area that was on the beach, like came up and we see him in the truck and I just tell her, run, start running. And guaranteed, I don't even think they were thinking about that. Probably wouldn't even care that much. But like in my head, I was like, these Costa Rican people are going to come kill us.
They're going to come for blood.
Yeah, because I didn't give them their $36 or whatever it was.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. That was a fun one. Don't send your 17-year-old to Costa Rica. They don't check a lot of things there. It was a wild vacation.
Oh my God. I had to stiff a cab driver one time on some money in Mexico. That story I told you about the gun where the dude tried to say that I had the handgun.
I don't remember this.
I went to Mexico with this guy I thought we were going to be selling condos down there. He forgot that he had a loaded 9mm in his bag. Flew from Atlanta to DFW to Puerto Vallarta.
Give me a break. Like the Border Patrol's never seen somebody with a gun crossing the border before. I'm pretty sure that's happening. Give me. You're probably the nicest guy to ever bring a gun to the border. Like,
dude, his bag didn't get there. Whole bullshit. The next day, his bag got there. They detain him at the airport when he goes to get his bag back. He had fucking hollow tips. Like, what are we doing? And then he started trying to get me to say that the bag was his. Long story. And so the next morning, I was like, fuck this guy. I'm leaving. And I get in the taxi, go. The guy was like, oh, well, I don't take credit card. And I had like very few pesos left. And I like went into some, I forget, it's an OXXO. It's like their equivalent of like a QT. I can't remember what the deal was. I couldn't get cash. I could get cash back. So I bought like a fucking energy drink or something. I got the most amount of cash back, went back to the guy. This is like 5:15 in the morning in fucking Puerto Vallarta. There's like no one there. We're like next to the airport. And I was like, here you go. And I gave him all the cash and I already had my bags. And he was like, no, like you still owe me whatever. And I was like, sorry, champ. And just like scurried off into the airport because I was like, I'm not getting stuck here. Like,
have you ever dined and dashed? That's one that I've never done.
No.
Like that I feel like that's a common one teenagers will do, but I never had the heart for that.
I don't have the heart for it either because like, you know that they're going to take it out of the fucking server's pay. Like you're just fucking the server over.
Yeah. I do have one of the best shoplifting stories ever, where when I was 18, 19, something like that, just moved into my first place and I was like, oh, I'm gonna have like a little housewarming party. I invited a couple of my friends over and I was like, all right, I'm gonna go to Walmart and I'm gonna buy some stuff. I was gonna buy groceries and all these things. So I go into Walmart, I get a bunch of groceries and I had the genius idea that I was going to take like a 24 pack of Sprite, like the boxes. And I emptied all the Sprite out, and then I put 24 Pabst Blue Ribbon in that box, and then like sealed it up or whatever, and then scanned it when I went out. And all the shoplifting guys were like laughing at me. They're like, "That's crazy." I was thinking when we watched you the entire time. And I remember.
Did they stop you, or were they?
Oh yeah, no, they stopped me. I got arrested. It was like a whole thing. Like it was like the first time ever. Like obviously, I was there for like 45 minutes. I was in and out, but. Yeah, I remember I had to do like the shoplifting anonymous classes, and it was all like young Latino women that had been stealing a ton of makeup. It was me, like one other young guy, and then a bunch of Latino girls that had stolen a bunch of makeup. I think they were all together, like they had gotten caught together.
Makeup ring,
literally, which makes sense. I mean, that's
girls are kleptos.
That's like one of the common ones, right?
Girls are kleptos. I know lots of women who, if you go to a brewery with them, you go anywhere, they're stealing something. They're like, oh yeah, like let me just take this very nice glass, and they'll shove it in their purse and walk out. And it's like, what are you doing? And then like you go to their place and they have 72 beer glasses, and they're like, oh
we're looking at you, Amanda, Brady's girlfriend.
Yes,
she steals glass everywhere we go.
Yeah, that's
it's crazy.
Par for the course. I don't understand.
It's like, how many glasses do you need?
They do it for the thrill.
I get it.
I kind of respect that. That's like love for the game. You're just committing crime you don't need to commit just because you fucking love it. Like that's a passion thing.
Kleptomania, if that's a very like feminine crime, I think a very masculine crime is like running away from the police for no reason.
I was going to say drunk driving, but that works too.
Don't drunk drive. That's bad. Yeah, no, like you ever see the squeeze Benz guys, like the dudes up in New York who are like it's not even like racing, because racing involves like getting to an open area and then just going as fast as you can. It's like GTA style maneuvering. Like they just like go up on the sidewalk and then come down and like do 3 loops. It's like, what the hell is going on?
Yes. Dude, there was some guys that I watched that do like, I think they call it like cannon run or something like that.
That's like the cross country one, right?
Yeah, but like
that's legit.
They'll do this crazy shit though, where like some guy, like one of the guys got pulled over, and I remember this video so clearly. This guy gets pulled over, and he was like in some shit, and so his buddy's like trying to bail him out, and his buddy basically cuts over onto the shoulder, like within sight of the cop, and then whips back over, cuts over like 3 lanes, and takes off. And so the cop is literally like writing this guy a ticket, sees that coming from behind him, jumps in his car, takes off after the other guy just to like get his buddy off, like fucking running from the cops. That shit seems fun.
It would surely be quite exciting. No, undoubtedly, I don't have the heart for it, but
I don't have the heart for it just for the fact that I don't want to wind up doing the jail time of what would come with that. But do you know how think about it this way: how fun would it be? How fulfilling would it be to think through, execute like a bank robbery that involves like a run from the cops, like in real life? If there was a simulator for that, like an escape room style sim, I would pay untold amounts of money to be able to try and plan a bank heist and get the fuck out.
I feel like the problem is nowadays it's not doing the crime, it's getting away with it, right? Because there's so many cameras and all that kind of stuff. It's not the Wild West anymore. Like I remember the most clever one I ever saw, because I watch those YouTube videos sometimes, like the big heist ones and stuff. And there was a guy, I want to say it was in Canada, and he did a bank robbery by himself, where all he did was he found out that you could get into the drop ceiling, which, like, if you don't know, the square ceiling tiles you'll see in office buildings and stuff like that. Like, there was just a security flaw, and like the wall didn't go all the way through the drop ceiling, so he was able to go from like one of the little waiting lobby areas that was open into the building, and then just get all the cash that was, I guess, sitting in the registers and stuff like that. And he got away with it. He got away with it for like a good period of time, but they ended up somehow tracking him down because of the money that he spent has serial numbers on it, whatever.
Bank robbery is a really inefficient crime now, because unless you can get into the vault, or unless you can get into the security deposit boxes. Like, my dad's a banker, and I think he said his banks have been robbed like 2 or 3 times. Like, one of the times he was in a boardroom, and their boardroom had a door that opened into the main hall, and they had an alarm on it, like, or basically like a fire alarm that was just red that would turn on, like, if the teller hits the button, hey, don't come out into the lobby, because the number one way people get killed in bank robberies is the robber gets spooked. Mm-hmm. Like, he doesn't go in there with the intention of shooting someone. He goes in there, some guy walks into the room, he freaks out and shoots him, just panics. And so hey, don't walk into the lobby. My dad's in the middle of like a fucking board meeting or something, and the guy's like, hey man, like, why is that red light behind you going off? My dad was like, okay, like locks the door, some shit, because they were literally in the middle of a bank robbery, like on the other side of the door. Dude takes all the money, throws it all in the bag, has it in the front seat of his car. Well, they used to have this die that would explode.
Yeah,
money.
I'm sure they do.
Dude's driving down the road and this die explodes, like 3rd-degree burns all the way down the side of his leg for like $7,500. Like no teller has more than I think like 10 grand on him. Like it's a bad, like 10 grand, like that's not.
Yeah,
worth
it's like robbing a liquor store. Like it's
and you're gonna get
that's old school crime when there wasn't cameras. I would imagine.
Back in the day would have been sick though, because you could go in like seriously fucking rob a bank and then get out.
Yeah,
and you go one town over. No, I'm John Smith now, and there's no ID, there's no camera, and some guy's like, you kind of look like that guy. No, that's my brother.
It's just a guy from like the carnival portrait place trying to give a picture based on your description, and ends up looking like Curly from Three Stooges. Not even close to accurate.
You're just running around robbing banks. That's sick.
Yeah.
I think that's a good crime. Dude, I don't know. Robbery's a cool crime if you do it without, hurting people.
Sure. Like, what's the movie called where it's like Robert De Niro and they run into is that Casino? I don't remember.
I'm the worst person for films ever.
That's fair. This is not good podcast fodder anyway.
Movies
fine. We can't remember.
Exactly. Hey, what more do you want? It's only white dudes on a podcast. Yeah. You worked in the strip clubs in Atlanta for a long time.
Hell yeah, that's an opening.
Let's go. I was about to say, that's the one thing that I wanted to get into was I was like, all right, we got to dive into that shit. We got like 15 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. What do you want to know?
Dude, I don't know. Just crazy shit that happens working in Atlanta strip clubs.
Yeah. I'll just to give context, I guess, I had a friend of mine that was running a company, and when he first told me about it, he said it was a valet company, right? Like parking cars and stuff. So I was like, yeah, cool. And it was 10 years ago now, and it was $25 an hour. So it was pretty good for the time being. And it was not just like strip clubs. It was basically clubs and restaurants, like whatever, they could get contracts for. And people, a lot of times when they think valet, they think about someone parking your car, which is why it didn't really fit what we were doing, because we were just doing parking lot extortion, where like we would go and make a deal with the people who own the club or restaurant and be like, all right, we're going to charge for the parking lot and give you 50%. Everyone that pulled up paid $20 and they parked their own car in the parking lot of the establishment that they're about to go pay to get in the door, then pay to have drinks. And I mean, it was true extortion. But that's Atlanta nightlife for you. So yeah, I mean, I did that for like 4 or 5 years and worked in definitely some crazy places. Met a lot of like relatively famous local people. But
you said they were all like Campbellton Road down there?
One of them was, yeah. One of the places I worked for the longest was on Campbellton Road, which was a wild one. Deja Vu, if you know it.
You seen any wild shit?
Oh, man. Every weekend.
Craziest shit you saw working?
Craziest? It depends on what avenue you want to go, but I think one of the best stories, and this is 100% true, and everybody can go back and check it, right? So at the one on Campbellton Road, one day I was working, and all of a sudden, a guy, a middle-aged black man with a cowboy hat on, pulls up on a horse, riding a horse. And for those who don't know, maybe you're not around Atlanta, Campbellton Road is in the center of the city. It's right south, the center of the city, right? And it's certainly not a place you'd commonly see a horse. And he comes up, and I remember him asking me, how much are you going to charge me to park the horse? And I was the only person there, so obviously I said, nothing, please let me ride your horse. So the cowboy goes inside, and I later find out that apparently that's Usher's cousin, and that they own like a horse farm on the south of Atlanta, and something along those lines, but everyone knew who this guy was. So then I proceeded to roughly 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, ride a horse around a parking lot of a club that I was working at, getting money from people for parking, like taking it off the horse and riding around, because it's very well trained.
Do you have a picture of this?
No, I wish going back, I never took pictures of anything back in those days, just because that wasn't the environment that you're in, that you're like taking pictures. You never know what a story would be. But I do remember the funniest ending to it is that the Deja Vu, for people who don't know, is a late night establishment, meaning it pretty much stays open until like 7 or 8 a.m. So we would leave like 4, right? And I remember the guy with the horse didn't leave by the time that we were getting ready to leave. So I tied it off in the front of the club to like one of the posts for the parking and just left it there. And I think about that very often, because like, man, I guess a horse sitting there in the front of the club, like chewing on Black and Mild butts, and like it was wild. It's truly crazy. But yeah, that was the funniest crazy thing. And then you would just see, man, I've seen so many fights and and like weird car accidents where people drive off the side of a ledge or get stuck on a curb because everyone's partying and having a good time. So
fucked up driving home.
Oh yeah, man, you'd see the craziest stuff with that, but that's the lifestyle. And you know what it made me do is it made me never want to go to clubs again. Like I have no interest in any of that now. I'm like, yeah, it's weird, especially when you realize like how much people get taken advantage of in different ways. I mean, even us, like, guy that pulls up and he goes there every single weekend. We know him by first name. Yeah, it's $5 to park. And then next guy pulls up like, hey, I've never been here before. It's my first time. Yeah, let me get $50. And like, and you're pocketing 20, 30 of that. So I mean, people, you get taken advantage of at every level of it. That's why you're going to be around Atlanta. You gotta get a sharp eye.
Nightlife in Atlanta, that side of nightlife in Atlanta, I have no desire to get into whatsoever.
Oh, it's a good time though. Like I said, you've never had a better time than staying out until 4 or 5 a.m. at late night spots. But
you take me to Deja Vu and we'll do that. I have no.
It's moved like 3 locations now. Places like that, they move locations, change the sign. Now it's spelled different. You know what I mean? Like it keeps it on the roll. You know.
I was about to say they're definitely not running from anything, but they keep changing location and name and whatever.
Yeah. No, that was an interesting spot, and I worked a couple interesting ones. I did. There was one time I think the most interesting story as far as people I met there. Andre 3000 from Outkast. Both of him and Big Boy came to do like a feature at a club that I was working at. I just remember, like, I'd met a lot of celebrities, like the basic ones you would see around, like T.I. and Young Thug at that point, and Buck, and like all the rappers that still live in the city or whatever. But Andre 3000 is somebody I genuinely liked. Like, I appreciate his music and stuff. So I was really happy that when I met him, I parked his car, brought him his keys, whatever. And I was like, hey, man, I just want to thank you for your music. I love your stuff. I've been listening to you since I was a kid, which is true. I probably listened to it when I was 5 or 6 years old. And he's like, oh, thank you. And like shook his hand. And I told him, hey, I'll bring your keys inside and like drop it off to you when we move your car around or whatever. He's like, all right, cool. So, he's in the club for an hour or two and I go to drop his keys off. We moved it up to the front for him and stuff. And when I walk in, he's like in the VIP section. He has his bottles and stuff sitting there with him. And I went to go hand him his keys. And he looked at me and he had his glass in his hand. He grabbed his keys and like kind of shook his glass. I was like, oh shit. He forgot who I am. He thinks I'm like a waiter or something like that. He's asking me for a drink. So I like lean in like, hey man, sorry, you got to ask the waitress for drinks. I can't get you a drink. He's like, no. Do you want a drink? I was like, oh shit. And he like poured up like a shot and like cheers me and we had a drink there. And there was a lot of dudes that, even semi-famous people, nobody from the Real Housewives of nobody, they would act like they were the most important person in the room. But I was super happy to see that. Andre 3000 was a very humble and real guy, even the short little 20 seconds that I was talking to him.
Don't a lot of rappers get paid money just to walk through clubs?
Oh, yeah, that's what it was. Certainly. I have no idea what they must have paid him to come and hang out that night. Like, they didn't perform or anything. It was literally because they pull up in some cool cars, they park it out front, they walk inside, they stand in the VIP section, everyone knows they're there. And
they get paid. Mm-hmm. That's insane to me. Yeah. Just to try and bring in foot traffic, get people to come because this is spot Andre 3000.
Yeah, and I think they promote it, and then kind of it brings an audience there, and I think even more so, it's like to take pictures and say that he was there after, so then people come
promo material and shit for it. Yeah. I know that they get paid a crazy amount more to do club shows. A lot of rappers get paid more to do club shows than they do to actual like concerts. I listened to some rapper talk about it, and he was like, yeah, I was getting paid like 30, 40, 50 grand a night to do club shows, but I was getting paid like 10, 15 to do a concert. And he was like, I'm not going on a fucking tour to get paid that money.
Yeah, I've seen them talk about that before. I think it's all probably the dynamic of what part of your career you're in or whatever. Like I knew the Bankroll Fresh pretty well. He was kind of a regular at one of the clubs I worked at. And again, another super genuine guy that I had a couple conversations with. And he ended up passing away on some crazy stuff. But that's all he did. He was kind of a real street guy. So he wouldn't even just show up to clubs. He would like go to your restaurant. Like if you were opening a restaurant, you wanted Bankroll Fresh to be there, give him $5,000. He's going to show up and make a video out in front. He was a real hustler, man. And like I said, I think it's all the dynamic of what your audience is. I'm sure for big rappers that can sell out an arena, it's probably worth it to do so. But for guys that are more local, it probably makes sense just to
they just get paid to go do clubs.
Yeah, and just promote stuff on their name. I mean, shit, that's unfortunately the world we're all going to be in soon. We're all going to be doing our social medias so that we can have a sponsor and have internet for that month or whatever. Who knows? So you get your discount on my undies.
Dude. I was there's a book called Ready Player One. It's like the most dystopian shit ever. And basically these people would have like, they would hook live stream, basically like the Google glasses, they would like hook those up and people would pay to watch just the complete live stream of their life. Like fuck a live stream like this where like 5 people, 6 people sitting around talking to like Kai Cenat or whatever. It was like, well, we just want to pay to watch your life. And then people would be paying to sponsor like the live stream of like Austin Saxon's glasses.
Yeah, they don't want to see that. There's a lot of crying.
All right. Well, this is fun, dude.
Oh, yeah, man.
Yeah, like an hour and a half. So thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, man. Thank you for having me.
It was fun.